And so we'll talk about this molecule as it relates to oxidation and inflammation. There's an ad hoc study out there that shows us to be 172 times more powerful than vitamin C. And there's peer-reviewed published research that shows us to be 125 times more powerful than vitamin C. So certainly have that check box. And I'll end up coming back to antioxidant. When it comes to inflammation, you may have kind of been digging into supplements like, why does not many people talk about inflammation in terms of like, where's the supplement that fixes inflammation?
Right.
The reason is because the FDA has equated conversations about inflammation with the diseases of inflammation, which are also the diseases of aging, which are arthritis, Alzheimer's, cardiovascular disease, cancers. So if we were to say we deal with inflammation, then what the FDA hears is we cure cancer, arthritis, right? Like, so obviously so much more research to go down to be able to get even close to that.
Welcome to Hopeful and Wholesome, the show where ambitious women come home to their bodies. I'm your host, Hope Pedraza, and I'm a functional practitioner, human design guide, and expert on all things energy, and your partner in decoding the language of your body. This is your space to reconnect with your body's wisdom, reclaim your energy, and rise into alignment in your health, your business, and your life. Because thriving isn't about pushing harder, it's about learning to listen deeper. So let's dive in because your next breakthrough starts right now.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the show. Today I have on the show Chris Burres, and he is the founder and chief scientist at MyVitalC, where he manufactured a Nobel Prize winning molecule responsible for the single longest longevity experimental result in history, a full 90% extension of life. This is no joke. He is a published author. He's the host of the Uncovering the Secrets to Longevity Health Summit, a podcast host, patent holder, and he's actually also a master of comedy improv, which I thought was so fitting. He is the intersection where science meets laughter, and his life's mission is to help people live longer, healthier, happier, and pain-free with science. And we are talking all about what this molecule is, the ESS60 molecule. This is what's in MyVitalC, which I'm going to talk about and actually just started using. He sent me some and I just started using, and we're going to do another episode to talk about how it affects me and impacts me. But we're talking about, we get real sciencey here. We're going to nerd out on a few things here, but this is a completely fascinating topic. I'm talking about longevity. I know longevity is a really hot topic lately. And there are so many cellular benefits to ESS60, this particular molecule, and how exactly it works to extend lifespan. And he has some crazy, incredible testimonials to prove just what it does in the body. So much to learn from here. And I'm going to have a little promo for y'all at the end. You can check the show notes for this little promo code to save some and go ahead and get yourself some of this MyVitalC and get started. Let's jump in. All right, y'all. I'm here with Chris and I'm super excited about this conversation. Chris, thank you so much for joining us today.
I love that we started with y'all, right? Because I'm just up the road from you. I'm in Houston, so glad to be with y'all. So this is exciting. I love talking about geeky science stuff. I love sharing longevity stuff. We were already kind of talking about different guests that you've had that have been amazing. So I'm excited to jump in here.
Yeah, me too. And I was telling Chris before we started that these longevity topics have been really hot lately. And I know these have been getting lots of downloads on the show. So I know y'all are in for a treat. This is another conversation about longevity. And I would love to just like jump right in and talk about the actual, because I want to talk about this, what you've come up with, what you've developed. But when we're talking about the conversation, we're talking about longevity. What are in your studies and your research and your knowledge, what do you find are the primary drivers of aging?
That's a great question. And it's a great question because there was a time that I had no answer for that. Like I wouldn't have known what to say. And I'm not saying like back when I was 5, I'm saying like 6 years ago, 8 years ago, being in the health space, being in the longevity space, having written a book called Live Longer and Better was not on my radar. And we'll end up, let me give a little bit of background on the molecule and then I'll kind of hop forward to that. So I've been manufacturing this molecule. So I'm holding up a model of a molecule. If you're listening, just imagine a soccer ball where the lines on the soccer ball represent the bonds between the carbon atoms. You have a spherical molecule of 60 carbon atoms. This molecule was discovered here in Texas. Yes, actually in Houston at Rice University. Houston's where we're based. And the three scientists who discovered it won the Nobel Prize for that discovery. It's an interesting story because the molecule is amazing in industrial applications. My company actually started manufacturing the molecule in 1991. So we're the oldest and longest manufacturers of this molecule. We call the molecule ESS60, especially if you're going to consume it. The molecule is great for inks, batteries, tires, photocells, which usually starts to make people nervous, right? Like we're on a health podcast and I've never looked at my car and thought, what component of my battery should I be taking on a daily basis? And the story gets a little bit worse because one of the shapes that is repeated on the exterior of this soccer ball shaped ESS60 molecule is reminiscent of benzene. So it has the same shape as benzene, same carbon structure. And benzene is known to be toxic and known to be a carcinogen. And so they thought this molecule would be toxic. They put it in a toxicity study. Instead of being toxic, the test subjects that they gave it to, in this case, it was Wistar rats, they lived 90% longer than the control group. So the single longest longevity, we're talking about longevity, the single longest longevity experimental result on mammals in history is because of a molecule this ESS60 molecule that I've been manufacturing since 1991. Now, I'm going to fast forward. There's interesting pieces of the story in the book about how my business partner and I tried not to get into the supplement industry. We were very happy as happy-go-lucky carbon nanomaterial scientists. If there is such a thing, that's Robert and I. And we're kind of forced into the supplement space. Maybe we'll get to that piece of the story. But when we finally decided, really at the beginning of 2018, to get into the supplement space, to deliver a high quality product to the market, one of my goals was to figure out the science, like what are the mechanisms of action? And our most consistent testimonials, people take it in the morning, they report mental focus and energy during the day, and then better sleep that night, right? So if you improve sleep, I know your coaching, any conversation you're having with people is like, hello, you want to talk about health? How's your sleep, right? Like that, sleep is so important for our mental, physical, and emotional well-being. And if you don't really believe that, and I mean that at a core level, really believe that sleep is that important, you need to go read a book by Matthew Walker called Why We Sleep. It is 25 years of a sleep researcher. I call it the scariest book you will ever read about sleep. I call it the Freddy Krueger of sleep books, right? Freddy Krueger is this Nightmare on Elm Street character who's in your dreams and scares you out of your dreams. This book will scare you into your dreams. Because what happens when you don't get sleep is so profound and negative. There is nothing positive. So go read that book. So sleep, again, if we just improve sleep, improve mental, physical, and emotional well-being. And then I decided to dive deeper. We had these Wistar rats living 90% longer than the control group. What does the medical community think about aging? Tends to think, not always, but tends to think that aging is an oxidation and an inflammation process. So here I'm getting to your question. And when we think about an oxidation, in fact, there's even a word called inflammaging, right? Like because inflammation is so closely tied to aging.
Yeah.
And so we'll talk about this molecule as it relates to oxidation and inflammation. There's an ad hoc study out there that shows us to be 172 times more powerful than vitamin C. And there's peer-reviewed published research that shows us to be 125 times more powerful than vitamin C. So certainly have that check box. And I'll end up coming back to antioxidant. When it comes to inflammation, you may have kind of been digging into supplements like, why does not many people talk about inflammation in terms of like, where's the supplement that fixes inflammation?
Right.
The reason is because the FDA has equated conversations about inflammation with the diseases of inflammation, which are also the diseases of aging, which are arthritis, Alzheimer's, cardiovascular disease, cancers. So if we were to say we deal with inflammation, then what the FDA hears is we cure cancer, arthritis, right? Like, so obviously so much more research to go down to be able to get even close to that. And that specific research may never happen. I don't know. There's currently isn't any intellectual property to motivate a massive big pharma company to go after and do that research on this molecule. Right. So, but what we can say, what the FDA does allow us to say, and this is kind of a unique loophole, if you will, is that we do address inflammation as it relates to exercise-induced inflammation, right? So we've all had a tough workout, maybe just walked longer one day and woke up the next day and felt that inflammation in our body. We absolutely address that type of inflammation. So those are kind of the theories. And then we've got one more newer theory that really dives into even how might it be, if it does, which we're not saying it does, have a positive impact on inflammation. And it's called the BOSS theory, right? So buffering oxidative stress system. So we know from peer-reviewed published research that, and I know I'm going straight into the science, and so we're going to be just quick and fast here. By the way, I'm going to get a little geeky now, and then I've got a fun analogy to kind of wrap it all together, right? So we know from peer-reviewed published research that this ESS60 molecule gets into the mitochondria. We also know from way back in the 90s when they discovered the molecule that it can hold up to 6 negatively charged particles on the exterior of this cage. And what that turns out to mean, well, let's do kind of a quick refresher. I'm sure your audience knows this. Mitochondria, the powerhouse of every cell. There's between 50 and 5,000 mitochondria in every cell in your body, except for your blood cells, which have 0, and your brain and neurons, which have 2 million, right? That's how much energy our nervous system uses relative to the other systems in our body. Like any power source, mitochondria has a negative byproduct. So you think about your car going down the road, it's got exhaust. You think about a power plant, it's got a smokestack. The negative byproduct of mitochondria is reactive oxygen species. These are negatively charged particles that run around doing oxidative damage, oxidative stress if they are left to their own devices. I kind of picture them like little bumper cars. Everything they bump into, they end up rusting, right? That oxidative stress. Internal to the mitochondria, it's got 2 antioxidants to manage those reactive oxygen species, and that's glutathione and melatonin. Kind of interesting, melatonin, the sleep hormone. I mentioned our most consistent testimonial is related to sleep. There's nice parallels in that piece of the story. Now, it's only when a mitochondria gets overwhelmed that reactive oxygen species are stressed, right? So what can cause mitochondrial stress? A lot more than you might think, right? So tough workout that we talked about, that long walk. You can get exposure to EMF. You can get sunlight. You can have a stressful email, a stressful interaction with a colleague or a loved one. These can stress your mitochondria. And that's when they produce more reactive oxygen species than your glutathione and melatonin can manage. And that's when they run around like little bumper cars doing damage. And that's when we think this molecule steps in and does a pretty fantastic job of being an oxidative stress buffering system. So again, peer-reviewed published research shows that in the mitochondria. Research from back in the 90s shows it holds negatively charged particles. Reactive oxygen species are negatively charged particles. So we believe that the reactive oxygen species, the extra ones that aren't managed by glutathione or melatonin, are stuck on this ESS60 molecule until that mitochondria can replenish the glutathione and the melatonin to then manage those reactive oxygen species properly. Here's my fun analogy. Like any biological fun analogy, it starts with Mardi Gras. Mardi Gras. You've got these drunk reactive oxygen species running around, slamming into windows, smashing up cars, doing the damage. And what do the New Orleans Police Department do? They send out their glutathione and melatonin officers to handcuff themselves to those reactive oxygen species and get them off of Bourbon Street. But what does the New Orleans Police Department do when they get overwhelmed? Well, they take those drunk reactive oxygen species and they stick them in a paddy wagon, right? They attach them to the ESS60 molecule. And when they're able to replenish the glutathione and melatonin, they can then handcuff themselves to those reactive oxygen species and get them off of Bourbon Street. And that's why we say the ESS60 molecule is the boss, buffering oxidative stress system. And I've talked geeky and fun analogy in a long time. So I'm going to turn it.
No, it's so good. We like nerding out. You're in good company. We like nerding out on this stuff. This is good. This is good. It's kind of blowing my mind. So, okay. So let's bring this down to like practical terms for the ladies listening here. So when it comes to, we're talking about aging and longevity and this molecule that you've discovered.
Yeah.
What
Whoa.
is...
I want to be clear. I did not discover it because then I would have a Nobel Prize, and I do not have a Nobel Prize. I would like one. That would be very amazing. I don't think I'm doing the kind of work that affords a Nobel Prize.
Don't discount your work.
Yeah. It's good work. It's
good
not,
work.
well,
It's good work.
Nobel
It's
Prize
good work.
worthy.
It's good work. Okay, so this molecule. So if this molecule is doing its job, what are the effects that we're seeing because of this?
Yeah. So, let me just touch on this. It is a naturally occurring molecule. We have all been exposed to this molecule. And the way to describe that is if you take the soot of a candle flame, and you usually just, to collect the soot, you put a cold steel plate over a candle and you get that black, deep, dark soot. That soot has parts per million or parts per billion of the ESS60 molecule in it. So you've absolutely been exposed to this molecule before. So it's naturally occurring. We do have to do some really challenging engineering and manufacturing to make it in quantities that can actually go into a supplement.
Right.
That's kind of another story. We have literally head to toe testimonials, right? And kind of put yourself in my shoes. I'm trying to figure out what is the method of action going on here. And we're getting testimonials. And by the way, I'm going to give some testimonials. So I'll start with two things. The FDA has not evaluated our product. It is not intended to treat, diagnose, cure, or prevent any disease. And then the other is when it comes to anecdotes, I'll share them. I only share ones that I have a direct kind of chain of custody to, or I might share one, but I'll tell you that it's one removed, like my business partner shared with me. And I think it's also best just to assume this won't happen for you, right? If you dig into the research and you think that this is something that you want to try, we'll give a link at the end if it's something that you might be excited about. So from head to toe testimonials, we have had people call in and say, hey, my hair is growing back. It's growing back the original color. That's very surprising. That's head. The kind of fun toe testimonial is we've got a guy that we worked with. He actually was a former Navy SEAL in his career. When he was 5 years old, a crab bit his big toe and split his big toenail, right?
Gosh.
From 5 years old to 65 years old, his toenail was split. After he started taking our product, it is no longer split.
What?
Like this is at an age when, your body's like not taking care of things like your toenails,
that wouldn't be
right?
first priority. Yeah.
Yeah. And especially, it's one of the reasons that I think that we get hair and skin testimonials is because a lot of at least hair and nails, specifically skin, maybe to a lesser degree, it's just aesthetics, right? Your skin actually serves a purpose, but your hair and nails are really just aesthetics. And if you're dealing with some other challenges, then your skin and hair is gonna suffer from that. And when you repair those challenges, then your skin and hair, your body can go like, we should look good again. I kind of think that's how that works. By the way, I just remembered there was one piece that I didn't share, which is really important about this kind of method of action. Again, we cannot talk about inflammation other than exercise-induced inflammation. But I can talk about this, and we're actually starting an ad hoc study on HSCRP. I don't know if you do much with HSCRP. HSCRP stands for high sensitivity C-reactive protein. It is an inflammatory marker. So the more stress you have in your body, people with cancers have elevated HSCRP. People with cardiovascular disease, that's actually where HSCRP is typically used. Elevated HSCRP is an indicator of cardiovascular disease. This doctor that I met at Dave Asprey's biohacking conference last year, it was in Dallas. He came to our booth in Vegas and he shared this. I actually took a video of it because it was such a profound statement. He said, and his name's Dr. Young. He said, Chris, I don't care if you're male, female, pre-surgery, post-surgery, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, cancer, your product reduces HSCRP dramatically in 4 to 6 weeks. And he said he had one particular patient that was stuck at 9. And I learned later from conversations with oncologists that 9 means you have cancer until we prove otherwise, right? So we had a client stuck at 9, and that client at 4 to 6 weeks on our product was down to 0.9, right? So that's why you can imagine, that's why we're doing an ad hoc study first. And then we actually have plans to do a peer-reviewed published research paper, focused on HSCRP. And I'm ordering tests, hopefully today or tomorrow, so that we can get people into this ad hoc study and start collecting data. I'm pretty excited about that.
Awesome.
And then I lost track of the question that you asked.
It was what the effects that we're seeing because of this.
So we've got head to toe, right? And I can share 40s, right at the age you might be thinking about menopause. My wife went through early onset menopause and she suffered. I did too, if I'm being honest. So, but she actually suffered, right? I just had whatever
You were collateral damage.
Collateral trauma, I think
Yeah.
is what it is. And I actually finally, you can imagine your significant other. I didn't go back. So here's some framework, right? I didn't go back into a lab and create something that was going to be amazing. And we actually have cosmetics that we keep getting raving reviews about. And I'm like, I'm not a face serum guy, right? I'm not even, my business partner and I tried not to be a supplement guy. So you have that as your spouse who's going like, apparently this stuff I've been making for 25 years is a good supplement. You should take it. Her answer was no. Like, I'm good. I finally convinced her to take it, really because she had a really bad flu, got better super quick after she took the serving, and then noticed a number of things. And some of them were related to better management of symptoms, menopause symptoms.
Sure.
So I know that might be on the radar. Hopefully it's on the radar. I guess it's one of those things. I've done a lot of interviews about menopause, which you might not think that I'm doing interviews about menopause. But it's apparently something that doesn't get talked about a lot.
It's true.
Right?
It doesn't get talked about enough, for sure. There's plenty of women who are listening who are almost there, they've been there. So they're listening.
They're almost there. They're probably already feeling some symptoms and don't know that that's part of what's going on. Right. So I think the more that we can talk about that, the better. Absolutely. And men should probably listen so that they can be prepared and have less collateral trauma.
We're helping everybody here. Everybody wins.
So yeah, absolutely some benefits there. If you're thinking about, again, most consistent testimonial, people take it in the morning, mental focus and energy during the day. And who doesn't need that? By the way, mental focus and energy is really a nice to have, right? Like if as long as your brain is working, right? Like you would like to have that.
Yeah.
But when it comes to sleep, it really is not an option, right? And there are a lot of people who are suffering from too little sleep. And I'll kind of share a testimonial. My business coach said that for 50 years, he needed an alarm clock to wake up. And after he started taking MyVitalC, he wakes up before the alarm clock goes off, right? So this is a deep enough, good enough sleep. And it's interesting to point out because he's a business coach, right? So he's out networking, he's having late dinners, he's drinking wine, like all of the fun things. And so it still has this positive impact of him waking up before the alarm clock. Now, when he doesn't get the product, because I haven't brought it around, about 10 days in, he starts to need the alarm clock again, and then consistently gets back on the product and no longer needs the alarm clock. So I think that's one. If you think about, and we'll go to extremes. I've got a guy named Anthony Kunkel. He's a 2-time U.S. ultra running champion. So he won a U.S. championship at 50 miles and at 50K, which is 62 miles. This guy is running 200 miles a week right now.
Same.
Like, it's crazy what he's doing to his body. And the first call that we had together, it was just fascinating. He said, listen, I was taking one serving of your product and I didn't really notice anything. And like all good biohackers, I decided to triple my servings. And when I tripled my servings, by the way, don't triple everything. Be very mindful.
Yes,
like there are things that you should not increase the dose on. In this case, it's very safe. When I tripled it, noticed such a profound difference that I think it could be the difference between somebody having running as a hobby and running as a career. Right. So, and the way he describes it is, I don't think, I'm going to get a frog in my throat here. I don't think that it reduces exercise recovery. I believe it prevents damage in the first place. And the reason I believe that is because on the last 5 miles of a 50-mile run, a phrase you do not hear very often, where strength and stability used to be a problem, they're no longer a problem. Now, if you think about this buffering oxidative stress system, right, where you're doing this, like if anybody's stressing their mitochondria, it's Anthony Kunkel. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And he's doing all the biohacking protocols. Actually, he's incredibly analytical about getting on them, trying them, taking good journaling, getting off of them, cycling on them. At one point, he's like, I was nervous that your product was so good that it was a crutch, potentially causing weaknesses in other places. The only example I have is if you start taking testosterone, your body will stop making testosterone or as much. And so he was worried about that. So he cycled off, cycled back on, and kind of confirmed that that didn't happen. But if you think about this buffering oxidative stress system, I like to think of this oxidative stress as like a stream of water hitting dirt, right? And it's going to make a hole as the stream of water hits dirt. But if you put a beaker there, that beaker is going to collect the water. So now you're not hitting the dirt. But if you don't do anything about the stream of water, eventually the beaker is going to fill up and start overflowing, right? Now, here's where I think it works. I think across the board, like with the testimonials that we're getting from our customers and for Anthony, he's stressing his mitochondria to the nth degree in his training blocks, like in his daily training. And he now has a beaker to collect that water. And then when he stops training for that day, right, takes a break, the flow stops, right? So you don't really need the beaker anymore because there's nothing filling up the beaker. But then his body can go in and get that stress, that water out of the beaker so that then he's ready to go and has done significantly less damage. And that's what we think it's doing. And so we literally are getting head to toe testimonials. I think one of them, which may have parallels, right, with kind of menopausal symptoms. A lady gave me a testimonial from the UK. She started her testimonial video with, so I'm in the middle of quitting smoking. And if you've ever been around anyone who's quit smoking, my parents quit multiple times. And it was usually not pleasant when they quit. And I'm very happy they both quit long before they passed. Actually, my mom's still with us. My dad quit long before he passed, and my mom quit long ago for the last time. But like, that's not a good time to get a good testimonial, right? But she went on to give a really good testimonial, and then she added one piece that really sticks with me, which is I found that I had a longer fuse with my son, right? So she had a toddler. If you have kids, if you've ever been around kids, like there's a fuse, and sometimes it's shorter, and sometimes it's a lot longer. Just to share that it was longer. And again, if you're just getting better sleep, again, mental, physical, emotional well-being, it can help that emotions, but it seems to have that positive impact.
Right. Yeah. That's a lot. There's a lot there. That was okay. So with this particular supplement, do you call it a supplement? It's a supplement for this particular supplement. Is this something that is safe to take indefinitely? Is this something like, I mean, you mentioned that these particular case studies were like the one guy was cycling on and off. Is this something we cycle on and off? Like, how do you recommend people approach how they take it?
I take it. So our recommended serving is 5 mils or 1 teaspoon. We do recommend you take it in the morning. Actually, let me talk about that a little bit because that's pretty fantastic. And it really does support this BOSS theory, right? Buffering oxidative stress system is that if you take it in the morning, mental focus and energy during the day, again, our 2 million mitochondria in every brain cell and neuron. So that's not that surprising. And then positive impact on sleep that night. So why is that so important? I'm not aware. Some people have mentioned that ashwagandha can do this. I haven't played around with ashwagandha. I haven't done much research into it. But in terms of things you can take in the morning to positively impact your sleep, I'm just not aware of. It's not normal, right?
Right.
It's not normal at all. And I like to compare and contrast this, going back to the book, Why We Sleep with Dr. Matthew Walker. He talks about the $2 billion sleep aid, we'll do air quotes here, sleep aid industry, prescription drugs that you take right before you go to sleep, and they're actually more damaging than you realize. And the way he goes into it, he says, these are depressants. What they do is they relax the chemical pressure of adenosine. So we have adenosine that builds up throughout the day that causes us to desire sleep. It relaxes that pressure. So you wake up after taking these, again, sleep aids, feeling not without the desire for sleep, which would be amazing, right? Like if you woke up the previous 10 days and you're like, I just need more sleep, and you can't, right? And then you wake up on the 11th day and you're like, I feel like I don't want more sleep right now. That would feel amazing. But he makes the point that it interrupts the REM and the NREM sleep, the healing and restorative sleep that you actually need in order to heal your body, the purpose of sleep, actually. And I like to contrast that because, again, you take R's in the morning, mental focus and energy during the day, and then better sleep that night. And I think that's a pretty profound impact. Yeah. And I'm not sure I answered your question.
Yeah. No, you did. It was how to take it. So you were getting there. Yeah. How to take it. Is it safe to take indefinitely?
So this is novel, right? This is very new. So as with any new thing, by the way, there's no reason to say this other than it's prudent science, which is, women planning on getting pregnant women, young children, nursing women should not take this, right? We've got research to do there. By the way, there's we actually have a dog version, and I'm like, do you have a puppy? And they're like, yeah, you don't need it because you don't need your puppy to have more energy.
This is true. This is true.
Right? That's just not necessary. And I think that's all very true. And if you look at the original study where the rats live 90% longer, they didn't give any dosing to the rats until month 10. And I think rats are like adults at month 3, right? So this is well into adulthood that they got their first serving. So there's no reason to kind of be pushing that envelope. And again, prudent science says we don't know for sure. But I don't think that there's any problems. We just don't know for sure. In terms of, like Anthony, he tripled his serving. Some people will ask, well, is there maybe a max amount? I'm aware of people who have told me they've taken a full 4 ounces, actually 8 ounces in one go, right? We believe that the toxicity of the product is related to the toxicity of olive oil. By the way, remember, the product is basically olive oil with as much of this ESS60 molecule as we can get to dissolve in it, right?
Gotcha.
So we believe the toxicity level is related to olive oil, which involves drowning, right? Like you could get from water, you can get hyperhidrosis, right? If you drink water too quickly, your cells explode because of the hydration. It's actually lethal. We believe that you would actually start you can't drink oil at the rate that you need to. You would start to throw it up. Now, is throwing it up mean it's toxic or your body just doesn't like the oil? Like whatever, I don't know exactly what that means, but that's what we're talking about. Okay, so, there are days where I take a lot. My typical routine, we have an olive oil product, an avocado product, and an MCT product.
Okay.
And I do kind of like a Dave Asprey bulletproof coffee, except I take out the ghee. I don't want all those calories. I don't like it that much. But I put about 1.5 teaspoons of our MCT product in my coffee.
Okay.
While that's blending, I take 1.5 teaspoons of the olive oil product. If I have a particularly busy day, stressful day, whatever, I might end up taking additional teaspoons or even tablespoons. Also, if I'm kind of so what's happened to me before, it used to be the case that I got sick regularly. Like I know the signs of sick. And in fact, I just did I recorded an interview yesterday where we were going over my gut biome, and she was very surprised because I listed out that I used to take antibiotics once or twice a year until I was like 40, maybe even 45, because I would just get sick, and I could tell you, what is it? A Z-Pack was the only thing that was going to work, right? So they would give me amoxicillin and like, stop wasting my time. Give me the Z-Pack. Anyway, so I know what it's like to get sick regularly. And what's happened over the since I've been taking this in 2018 is you can feel that kind of post-nasal drip, right? Like, okay, my body, and you're just tired, right? Maybe you're taking an extra nap or something. And so you're fighting something, but it seems to never manifest. And that's one of the things that I notice for myself.
That's amazing. So, I mean, this is all encompassing, helping every functionality of the body, your sleep, mental clarity, your performance, your immunity, all the things. Okay. So I want to ask you another question about longevity, just shifting the focus a little bit, because you have a book all about longevity. It's not just about this. So
it's mostly about the molecule, right? And then like the last 2 chapters are about kind of the knowledge that I've gained from doing all the research that I've done. I've interviewed 55 experts in longevity, and how do we kind of boil that down into some value adds for the reader?
Yeah. So if there are like top 3 things that the women listening could be focusing on, in addition to everything that you've already talked about, what would you distill down to like the big 3 things that they should be doing for longevity, purpose of longevity?
So what I'm going to share is one of the interesting outcroppings. I wish I could say that I did this because I was super smart. I just thought it was the right thing to do, and so I did it. And I asked everybody, every single one of the 55 experts. I'm also flipping through because I might have a picture of it. I asked every single one of these 55 experts, what are 2 to 3 protocols, habits, mindsets? Let's call them shortcuts because everybody likes shortcuts.
That's it. Yeah.
Right? For longevity that you would share. And then we aggregated all that data. And I'm not going to have the numbers. I don't have the numbers in front of me, so they're not going to be perfect. But the numbers started with that mindset, right? So remember, this doesn't equal perfect 100 because everybody's giving 2 to 3 ideas, right? But mindset, I think it was like 44% mentioned mindset. And then 55% mentioned exercise and nutrition, right? 55% exercise, 55% nutrition. And then it was a lower number, like 30% mentioned sleep. And my first thought was, we've been talking about sleep a lot of this podcast. My first thought was, wow, these experts, they kind of got it wrong, right? They got it wrong because sleep is so important.
Should be at the top,
right? It should be at the top.
Right.
And then I started thinking about it, right? Because we're really thinking in the context of making changes, right? And the reality is, if you need to exercise more and you don't have the mindset to exercise more, you're not going to do it. If you need to change your diet, like we could say things like drop donuts or just eat more protein, and you don't have the mindset to do that, then you're not going to do that, right? So as I went back, I was like, yeah, they absolutely got it wrong. But the way they got it wrong is mindset comes first. And so I think focus on your mindset. I am working on a 6-week course. It's kind of on hold, but I call it a 6-week course. And there's a bonus week, which is the first week is just mindset. Like let's get positivity into your mind. Let's get a mindset about the changes that you want to make in place. And don't worry about anything else. Just get the mindset right. And then of course you continue that through the 6 weeks. So I would say mindset. I think in terms of, I like to call it movement, because there are people, right? And they may be listening to the podcast who are like, they're more couch potato-y than they want to be, right? And so you need to be focused on 4 types of movement, right? The easiest 2 are flexibility, right? And balance. So you need to be doing something good for your flexibility and balance. You also need to be doing something with heavy weights, right? You need to be sore once or twice a week, preferably twice a week. Now, kind of cool is yoga and like Tai Chi, if you're not used to working out much, can tick most of those boxes. I would recommend that eventually you need to get to heavier weights than yoga and Tai Chi would do. But if you're just starting out, you're going to be sore, and not just stretching sore. You're going to be muscularly sore. And then the other one is VO2 max. You should be working on your VO2 max. Now, there is an exercise that I love that is good for strength and VO2 max, and it's sprinting. So I have to ask you, when was the last time you sprinted?
Me personally, probably last year.
So last year.
I mean, I was a runner for a while, so every now and then I get the itch to.
Doesn't it feel so good? Yes, you're exhausted after, and you're sucking wind, and like you're bent. But it feels so youthful. Like you look, if you're at a playground, why are these kids running? Not all of them are playing tag. Some of them are like, I need to run. I don't know why. Like the same.
They
like
literally run for no reason. Yeah.
Like your puppy gets the zoomies, right? Because it feels so good, and it can I actually did sprint training this morning. I will be sore tomorrow, right? Like that's a fact. And I will be sore basically from about the bottom of my rib cage down, right? Like just an ab workout, even some arms maybe. So I love that. Obviously, if you're going from super couch potato, like build up
steps
to that.
In between there.
There's a few, but I love it. I couldn't recommend it more. And when you think about VO2 max, a lot of people are like, oh, get out there and run for 3 miles. No, that's not the best way to increase your VO2 max. The best way is to take your heart rate as high as you can safely, right? Make sure you're having conversations with your doctor, and then drop it down. And it's those sprints, there's HIIT training, right? Which isn't necessarily VO2 max training. That's just intense training, intensities, and then rest. And then there's ReHIT, which is intense VO2 max training, which is like, and so my sprints are 20. My workout today was 1 minute and 20 seconds.
Yeah. So now, just short.
I'm walking between, right? I'm
Sure.
walking super slow to catch my breath,
Yes.
but the actual workout was 1 minute and 20
Yeah.
seconds of.
Yeah. I'm so glad you said that. I read this article a while back and it was talking about, the combination, the ideal, they actually probably mentioned the word longevity in there, but like the ideal workout for like as you age, for all the benefits. And they talked about sprint training and then strength training. And people really don't understand what sprint training is because they think, like you said, they think it's hit training, which is not. Like this isn't like a long thing. Like you don't have to spend an hour on the treadmill doing sprints. Like it's really short and it's for a brief period of time and you're done.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's exhausting, right?
Yeah.
And there's something that feels good about that, right?
Right.
Like I came back and sat down for like
Yeah.
30 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. Yeah. That was okay. That's such good information for people because I know that's, and I feel like these are all, well, actually, one other thing I wanted to add because you left out Pilates when you were talking about Tai Chi and yoga, and I
Yeah,
just want to throw it in there. So,
I haven't tried Pilates yet.
really?
I
You're
need
missing
to.
out.
I believe I am. No,
Yeah.
I know it's pretty female dominated. Like that's kind of my understanding, and maybe that's changing. And there is one down the end of the street. My daughter's been talking about. Maybe I need to go.
It is changing a lot. There are a lot of professional athletes who've been doing it. So it's kind of putting
Mhm.
it on the board for men. So it's not it was created by a man for men.
Mm.
So it really is that it just got that reputation when it came to, the United States. But anyway, you should
And,
try
and
it.
and that can be three of them, right? That can be
Totally.
the flexibility, the
Yeah.
balance. I don't know how
Yeah.
much
Lots of
balance is,
balance. Yes.
and
Mhm.
then the
And
strength, right?
yeah,
Because you're moving your
absolutely.
own body weight
Mhm.
around.
Check, check,
Very
check.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a little plug for Pilates, just want to leave it out there. And you should try it. You should definitely try it. Okay, this was so good and this is so informative and I can't wait for people to check this out. So I do have one more question I want to ask you that I'd like to ask everybody. But can you let everybody know where they can find everything you've been talking about? Where to get the supplement, like how to learn all the things, where can they find out about this?
Yeah, so we made a URL especially for your audience, and there's a coupon code especially for
Perfect.
your audience. So that's cool. The
Lovely.
URL is MyVitalC, C as in carbon. So myvitalc.com/hopeful. And when
Perfect.
they go there, they will find the coupon code. Go to that. You have to go to that page to find the
Okay.
coupon code. That coupon code is good for $15 off
Nice.
of anything that you order. When you arrive there, I mentioned we have olive oil, avocado oil, and MCT oil. People regularly ask, which one should I try?
Yes.
And we always recommend the olive oil for two reasons. The first is we're a science-based organization, and all the research is on the ESS60 molecule in olive oil. So that's number one. Number two is you get the highest concentration of the ESS60 molecule in olive oil, right? So
Okay.
about 0.8 milligrams per milliliter in olive oil, 0.6 in avocado oil, and then 0.3 in MCT oil. So go with the olive oil. We do offer a 25% discount if you go on subscription. Even if you just want to try it once, go on subscription.
Yeah.
You can cancel it at any time. Our customer service team has 1,000 five-star reviews on Google. They are not trained to talk you out of canceling your.
Yeah.
They're there to help
Like a
you.
lot
Also,
of them do.
they're extremely knowledgeable. So feel free to call about that.
Awesome.
And then there's one other piece that I'm pretty proud of. So with the book Live Longer and Better, it's available on Amazon. It's $20 on Amazon. If you go there, please leave a review. I'm working to get more reviews there. That would be very nice. But if you go to our website, so if you go to the link, it's not going to be on that page, but use that link and then go to the menu structure and find the book. For $10, I'll sign the book for you, and 100% of that $10 goes to Operation Underground Railroad. I don't know if you remember the movie The Sound of Freedom, which was addressing childhood sex trafficking, which is obviously something we need to get rid of. That Operation Underground Railroad is what that movie is about. I happened to see him speak when that movie came out. And so 100% of the signature fee goes directly to Operation Underground Railroad. Very proudly, I signed one before I came in for this podcast.
That's amazing.
It's super exciting to supporting them.
That's awesome. I love that. I love that they're supporting that. That's amazing. Okay, so just curious. So, okay, you recommend the olive oil. So then what would be the benefit or the purpose of using the other two, the avocado and the MCT?
Well, some people just like the flavors better.
Oh, okay.
I have
Gotcha.
bumped into one individual who is allergic to olive oil, which is extremely rare, and was allergic to MCT,
Oh,
which is even
interesting.
rarer.
Yeah.
So he needed the avocado
Okay.
product. And so that might be a situation. Other than the MCT in my coffee, and sometimes I'll put the avocado because it's in our kitchen and I'll put it on my salad. Other than that, most of our clients are just taking the olive oil regularly.
Okay.
Now, a little note, we use a high quality extra virgin olive oil, and a high quality extra virgin olive oil will leave a peppery flavor at the back of your throat.
That's how you know it's the good stuff.
That means it's the good stuff. You're exactly right. In fact, you may have been to like an Italian restaurant where they'll pour the olive oil in a plate to dip your bread in, and then they'll crack pepper into the olive oil to try and make it taste more expensive. That's why
they're doing That's why they're doing it. There you go.
So we do get every now and then, it hasn't happened in a while, but we'll get like, hey, it's burning my throat. Is it rancid? No, that means.
Yeah, I do that. I am very bougie about my olive oil. I'm not ashamed to say it. I'm a member of this like bougie olive oil like club thing. And so I get, club? Yes. And so I get my bougie olive oil from Australia or Spain or Portugal or wherever it is. And it is like, I mean, my husband was all like, really? But now I'm like, you can't eat any other kind now. Like we can't, like you ruined him. You ruined. Yes. I'm like, this is the good stuff. So anyway, I am with you on that. The bougie.
We'll send you some. And I want to hear like my
professional. Yes. I will give you my professional opinion on the flavor. I love that. Okay. The last question I want to ask you that I like to ask everybody as we wrap up. What do you think is the most important thing you can do to live with purpose?
The most important thing you can do to live with purpose. Well, I think one is find the purpose, right? That's the first thing. I've done a lot of training and I'm going to share something that I think is often counterintuitive. The is still around called Peak Potentials. And they talked about sometimes people lump themselves into a purpose that they feel needs to eschew money, right? So now I have this purpose and the purpose is only this purpose and really money is an impediment or a hindrance or whatever. And I think that that's not a good path, right? And the example they give is like, go out, figure out how to make $1 million and then donate it. Right? Because you'll have a lot of impact with that. And not only that, you'll have the skills to make $1 million, which are the same skills to raise money for any organization, any kind of specific purpose that you're going after. So I think, first, spend some time understanding what your purpose is. There's some good books out there to identify that, to help you identify that. And, maybe have conversations with friends, families, life coaches, whatever that looks like. And then don't be afraid to make a lot of money and use that money for a good purpose.
I love that. That is such a good answer. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. And thank you for the research you've done and the amount of energy and effort and intention you've put into this. I'm excited to try this. I'm excited for everybody to try it. So thank you.
Thank you for having me, Hope.